That isn't a great segue to A Dream of Dracula in Search of the Living Dead by Leonard Wolf. A Dream of Dracula, a dark inquiry into the role of the vampire in civilization, into the passion of humans to escape the final doom of death, into our hunger for, our dream of immortality this side of the grave. From ancient Egypt to contemporary America, Leonard Wolf's book explores the vampire in literature, in history, in our culture and society, the vampire in theater and movies, and the vampire in real life. What's up, Baba? At the center of the book stands Dracula, a 19th century literary invention, yet possessed with an archetypal radiance that draws our fears and fascination to him like moths to a flame. Dracula is our main symbol of the vampire, but there is far more, bruvs. There is the handsome, wealthy Baron Marshal of France, Gilles de Rais, who is in the time of Joan of Arc, confessed to the murder of 200 young boys and girls. There is the living dead in literature, from Chaucer and Shakespeare to Baudelaire and Thomas Mann, from Dorian Gray to H. Rider Haggard's She, to Sir Richard Burton's description of Kali, the black goddess vampire. And there is the vampire in its modern incarnation. In one terrifying chapter, we meet a man, an American, who has become so fascinated with the legend of Dracula that he has begun to feed upon human blood. Yet, if he is atypical, it is only because his passion has become more of an obsession than most people's. For one thing, Leonard Wolf makes clear as he leads us through his intellectual exploration of dark and light, his strange and beautiful book, at once horrifying and lyrical. There is a bit of the vampire in all of us. A Dream of Dracula. What is the difference between dark and light? The subject of vampirism has engrossed Leonard Wolf for years, which is not surprising, considering that the actual place of his birth is Transylvania, the home of the dread Count Dracula. A map of Transylvania illustrates a dream of Dracula, as well as 21 illustrations associated with persons and events in the book. Wolf is now a professor of English literature at California State University, San Francisco, and the author of Voices from the Love Generation and the Passion of Israel. Israel. I'm not sure if Wolf is still alive today, but let's get on with this book. Shall we read this? No. I'll open it at least. There was once a real Count Dracula, and he was not a good old boy, bruv. What's this from? The New York Times, Sunday, August 27th, 1972. He was not a good boy, bruv. He was not very good at all, bruv. Alright. Who owned this before? Philip Parker? Parker's son? The Dream of Dracula. I think there's this bat. Oh shit, we lost it. The Dream of Dracula. Dream of Dracula. It's coming. In Search of the Living Dead by Leonard Wolf. Little Brown and Company, Boston, Toronto. This book is dedicated to Bram Stoker on the 75th anniversary of the birth of Dracula. This is a 1972 edition. First edition. Acknowledgements. I'm not going to read the acknowledgements. If you want to, you can. You had your chance. The contents, and let's get on with this. Goya's The Sleep of Reason. Prologue. It is a bright March day, 10 o'clock in the morning, the right time and the precise light by which to begin a dark inquiry. I sit at the edge of a fountain at Sather Gate on the University of California campus in Berkeley, California. Up in the hills, the windows of the mysterious radiation laboratories look across the bay at San Francisco. My feet and hands are cold, but I know that spring is moving uncertainly in the breeze that stirs my hair. Near me, a student tilts his head back so that his long blonde locks just touch the water. I feel the loveliness of the muscles in his shoulders, all right, buddy, and back as he arches up toward the sunlight and lets the tip of his hair just touch the rippling water. He is being a statue, young and poised and luxurious. He closed his eyes, presses his hands to the concrete of the bench and imagines me watching him. Yeah, I highly doubt he's imagining that, bruv. In the water that ripples past the tips of his hair, there float three French marigolds that drift toward the center of the fountain, where they are caught by the splash of whitely rolling water and driven back toward the edge of the pool. Hello, Robs! The dying flowers make a hypnotic rhythm of their floating out toward the edge, in toward the center, where the water jets up bright and cold. Hello, Brobs. The time is not quite winter, nor not quite spring, but that ambiguity is lost on the three blacks pounding their bongo drums as well as on the crowd of students, white and black, that loll on the benches and the steps in a space before the administration building. That building with its hollow Greek pillars stands like a comic version of its own photograph taken by a wide angled lens and adds to the scene a touch of dated sanity, not dead sanity. Permission to send something that scared people when it happened to me. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Other students come to sit at the fountain seat. Sometimes they take off their sandals and put their feet into the water. A girl walks by close enough for me to get a whiff of her bath soap, and I think, clean, clean, and yearn for her, but there are too many lovely girls moving about. So many that yearning becomes a feckless endeavor, though this is something my loins do not acknowledge. Yeah, I don't give a shit what you do. Fortunately, I am distracted by another pretty girl who passes by, clutching a frisbee to her breast. By the time I have finished inventing a history for what the frisbee has such a voluptuous place in her life, I have moved all my excitement to my head, and my groin is mercifully at rest. How young and sunny everybody is, including the middle aged faculty members who stalk by, goat footed like myself. Colors are everywhere. The men wear Peruvian shirts or blue jeans, into which their girlfriends have sewn purple and yellow patches. The women are wearing rebozos. What the hell's a rebozo? Tie-dyed long dresses, Indian saris, I don't know what the word is. Greek peasant blouses and jeweled sandals from Pakistan, as if to cap my joy in the exquisite morning. A couple of violinists take up their places not far away, under the arcade of the Student Union, and in the cold, bright morning tune up their fiddles, after which they move right into a Vivaldi concerto. I shiver with more than cold, and into my trained academic mind there push, in all their luminosity, Faust's lowering words to Mephistopheles. If I ever say to the moment, don't go, you are so fair, you may throw me in chains, I'd want to die. Let the death bells toll, and you'll be free. The clock may stand still, the hands drop down, and time come to an end for all of me. All right. There's your story, fuckface. And I know I am in danger of Faust's damnation. When the music climbs to the heights of its ecstasy, my cautious brain reminds me of Mephistopheles standing by, saying, in the words of a comfortable friend, "Hello, Bobs. A scrap of paper is enough for me and a little drop of blood to sign it." As I lean my head back and in imitation of the long haired youth who long ago took his wet hair away, I can read upside down a sign that, like the parting of a seam, reveals a different morning. In heavy black letters, it says, "Students, come. A winter carnival, only $16 a head. Purgatory, Colorado." We slept in the dark, sweet exhaustion after love for hours near oblivion. It was no time for the telephone bell, but it rang and rang, 2 o'clock in the morning, as if a fishhook had caught in the back of my skull, and I was reeled upward from the nourishing dark, and at last I heard it, reached for it angrily. "Hello! Hello, Dr. Wolf." The voice was scared but deferential. It had to be a student, a stupid student, an insane student. Who else would wake me at this hour with the absurd honorific? "Yes? Did I wake you?" the frightened voice inquired. "What do you want?" "I'm sorry to wake you. This is Mellon." The last of the bed's erotic warmth was drained from me. "Who?" I asked. "Mellon, you know, Penny told me about you." "Yes, Penny. She said you were interested in vampires." I might have replied, "Not every minute of my life." Instead, like Shylock, I muttered, "Well, he echoes, you'd better come over here." "Now?" "I think so. You'd better come over here. You should. Maybe you can do something." I wanted to shout. Instead, I whispered, "It's 2 o'clock in the morning." His voice was level, but without but without any abatement of his fear. "I know, but you'd better come. She said you knew about vampires." "Where are you?" 2270 page. "Upstairs in the back. Come." He hung up. "I'm a metaphysician," I grumbled, "not a physician." But nobody heard, and I reached for my clothes. 2270 page. "Upstairs in the back." The stairs are dark, the carpeting so old that only tufts of it still cling to the steps. The wallpaper is an ageless coffee brown. When I reach the top of the stairs, the smell of incense hits me. I hear voices far away and start down a long corridor of at the other end of which there is the glow of an orange light. The place feels close and warm. I pass a kitchen at my right and can smell more than see the piles of unwashed dishes in the sink and the garbage in sacks. When I reach the cave of orange light, I stop, as I think I am intended to do, to absorb the scene. It is a stage set for an as yet incoherent play. In the background, a window over which fish netting has been draped looks out on a brick wall. At stage center, there is a cut-down oak table on which there glows the orange-shaded lamp. Stage left and stage right are taken up by funky objects: a portable stop sign, the top half of a Victorian newel post, the right front fender of an automobile from the 40s. On the walls, there are posters for rock music groups: Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead, the Quicksilver Messenger Service. Facing me, there is a young man sitting in a fine bentwood rocking chair. Despite the orange light on his face, he looks extremely pale. His languid appearance, his drooping posture in the rocker, the green shawl over his shoulders, and the knitting that lies in his lap make him look extraordinarily like a riddling version of Whistler's mother. He sees me watching without surprise. After a while, he says, "I'm Mellon," and takes up his knitting. "Well," I ask, "what's the emergency?" He puts down his knitting needles to cover a polite cough. "Tom," he says, "meet Professor Wolf." He takes up his knitting once again. I had thought we were alone, but now I see that at my left, deep in the shadows, behind the newel post, there is a very tall figure, who moves forward. "Hi," he says, which is not the usual greeting of a vampire. "Hello, I'm Tom." He puts out his hand, and I take it. There is nothing apparently wrong with him. His handshake is firm, his face candid with the boyhood freckles he has not quite outgrown. But his smile is embarrassed and edgy. Mellon says, "You've got to make him stop it." Tom's movements are lanky, but he finds me a straight backed kitchen chair, and I sit. "He's crazy," he mutters, and gives me another confidential smile. I sit, feeling like a marriage counselor whose rights in an argument neither partner wants to acknowledge. Mellon, sensing that I am still grumpy from the lateness of the hour, says, Tom, give Dr. Wolf some tea. I don't want any tea. I want to know what the hell you called me for. Mellon turns his head away and says plaintively, because I want you to make him stop it. Stop what? Ask him, he moans. Softly, Tom says, Motherfucker, I'm not hurting you a goddamn bit. Cocksucker, Tom whispers indifferently. In their marriage, he is the one, I suspect, who threatens to walk out. I wonder where he gets his self-assurance. He is not particularly good-looking. Get him off my neck, Mellon pleads. He's going to drain me dry. What the fuck? It's just a little bit of blood. The motherfucker can spare it. Again, Mellon turns his head, but this time his hand goes to his throat in the shame-searching way of the vampire's victim. It hurts, he says. I can believe him, and I turn to give Tom the patient common-sense advice, which his disconnected smile already tells me that he will not hear. When I leave the apartment, I tread the tufts of rug on the stairs with great care. Mellon is no particular danger. His lover is an amateur monster who is actually more curious than he is compelled. Still, they have fatigued me, these lovers, but worse, as I make my way home, to what I think of as a better bed, I find that I am wildly awake, and all the pulsations of the night rush in upon me. Once again, my damned researches have murdered sleep. There is nothing diddly shit about the Hells Angels. They are the wandering outlaws of our own dark minds, and they look it, grease-stained, long-haired, and sweaty. They are proud of their reputation as a mean bunch of fuckers. And astride their Harleys, roaring into the wind, the flying skulls on their leather jackets grinning, their scruffy meanness achieves, for moments, a look of something like class. Brutality is their game, and they play it well. Mounted on their roaring loins, they drive by, sweating and stinking, provoking fear and desire. They are instant emblems of the fusion of barbarism with the production line. In their uncouth way, they have the chivalric code, if not in their minds, at least fitfully in their memories. Les Chevaliers du Diable, saying no to the cleanly decencies for the sake of a Satan whom they do not know enough about to worship, though they praise him with their name, their gestures, and their murky instincts. Did the Hells Angels really follow Satan? I don't think they do. In this order of foul knights, one of the most honored marks of distinction, one that must be earned, is the badge of the Red Wings. Only those who have proved that they have real class ever get to wear it. In the language of the angels, it's a righteous sign. The first rains have already moistened the hills behind Santa Barbara, and the angels have finished their run. The bikes are parked, the beer has been drunk. There is a fire on a knoll. Dirty Ed says, okay, time to earn some righteous wings. It is late in the evening. The thin sliver of moon is in the sky, as if too early, because night has not yet fallen. Filthy Phil, who already wears the Red Wings, gets up to put a log on the fire. Child molester, also wearing red wings, walks across the clearing where Scholar Gypsy is sitting beside a pale 18-year-old girl. Her name is Rose. She hardly knows or does not care that her name is emblematic. She is very frightened and leans towards Scholar Gypsy, who moves away from her. Child molester kicks Scholar Gypsy in the butt. Come on, man. It's your time. Scholar Gypsy up even as the other angels, 25 to 30, one by one, come out of the shadows to form a ring around the fire, their own girls following apprehensively. They all know what is to come. They all want it to happen. They are all scared. Scholar Gypsy punches Rose on the shoulder. He means to be companionable, but his fear makes the punch hurt. She winces. Okay, baby, says Scholar Gypsy. He walks ahead of her and a little to one side, like a man leading a woman he is pretending not to know. She follows in the midst of a deepening loneliness. The log that child molester threw on the fire, a pitch impregnated half of a telephone pole, splutters and sparks fly in wide arcs. Scholar Gypsy and Rose enter the circle of angels. In the firelight, they look like a Gustave Doré illustration. Scholar Gypsy's mouth is dry. He has a sinking feeling that is probably shared by the circle of watchers. Okay, he says. She stands at the edge of an army blanket that Crazy Cross, who is a garage mechanic, has folded with extraordinary care to make a narrow pad a few feet away from the fire. Rose stands and waits. Okay, says Scholar Gypsy again, and Rose unties the sash of her flowered cotton dress. She lets it fall and waits. A third time he says, okay, but he is not looking at her. Instead, his eyes watch the shadows the firelight makes, just to the left of her. She too takes leave of herself. What is about to happen has nothing to do with her, as it has nothing to do with the 30 men who stand in a circle waiting. It has even less to do with their women, who stand a few paces behind them. Women, who have nothing to do with it, who wait to watch. Rose unbuttons the top button of her dress. The Gustave Doré illustration flickers. The moon takes on sharper definition in the sky. Rose's fingers move down the 36 buttons of her dress. She is very young, and when the dress falls at her feet, she stands small-boned, small-breasted, slim-waisted above it. She is wearing no brassiere and looks awkward, naked except for panties. In the high grass away from the clearing there is slow chirring of crickets. She is young and gawky and removes her panties, as if her fingers were pulling at wires. Then she is entirely revealed, an 18-year-old girl, in the full flow of her menses. She stands. She waits. Scholar Gypsy gets down on one knee. Oh no. He is not there either, but he manages a curious courtliness, his left hand touching her thigh as his right withdraws the tampon. He stands and it drops from his fingers to lie at his feet. It's her turn now. This is meant to be a ritual. This is his gift to his brothers. Her gift to him. She is worried that she may not find her place on the army blanket and steps out of the ritual for a moment to glance behind her to see if she is where she belongs. She is young, and when she lies down, her elbows and shoulders and knees are angular in the firelight. Her small breasts seem to disappear. The Scholar Gypsy kneels again. She knows he is there. Her knees raised, she opens her thighs. The watchers are not there. They are holding their breaths, not watching. Watching. Scholar Gypsy bends his head where the blood flows slowly, the mark of her womanhood, her readiness. Scholar Gypsy bends his head and drinks. Jesus Christ. What kind of fucking book is this? I thought this was about Dracula. How long is this first chapter? Rampant Energy. This one goes 26 pages. So I'm probably going to stop there. Although 26 pages in this sense is still a lot of pages. Do you think we can make it? I think it's more like 13 pages. Anyway, my interest is piqued, even though this book sucks so far. There is certainly some repulsiveness, but I confess that, to me, there is also an element of fascination in the study of these beastly devices of the heathen. Each single beastly device, as it passes, is somehow touched with beauty and transformed by some spirit of upward striving. Gilbert Murray, 5 Stages of Greek Religion. Dracula sucks. No, man, he bites. A graffito. Dracula, historically a 15th century military genius, a scourge of the Turks who was also one of the world's most competent monsters. Dracula, the legendary vampire, the invention of Bram Stoker, a second-rate Irish writer compelled by a nightmare into a third-rate vision. The vampire, undead and unalive, turned loose by Stoker, still flaps his malefic wings across my evening horizon. The dry horror, old, powerful, strong, thirsty, bright eyed, staring down the long tunnel of his experience with history and unabashed by the past, is here, still avid for the oncoming present. A foreign creature with a hydropic thirst for the blood of lovely women, a film creation peering out over his coffin with his hypnotic eyes, exploring the night for victims. I have seen him flapping his lugubrious leather wings across the Texas plains, folding them on the window ledge of a bedroom in an American mining town, where a lovely ingenue sleeps, or heard him chirping his irresistible signal on a London balcony until the pale darling within hears, rises and opens the window to her lover and her loathsome doom. Dracula, the dark intelligence dressed to kill, forever ready to assist at a stylized theater piece in which no one is ever willing to acknowledge the role he has come to play. Hamlet returned from the grave with his question answered. To be or not to be, that is the question. And the question is, can I put this frickin' page down? To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis the consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep. Dracula knows, in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffed off this mortal coil, and is not deterred. He has returned from that undiscovered bourne and will again and again. He, greedy beyond all human lust, gorges himself with whatever is best in both worlds, the living and the dead, insolence sublime, a monster. Then, to ease the shock of this much awe, we add a monster from a second-rate pandemonium who sucks a little blood upon our screens and is gone. We know him, and a frit for the dozing mind, an erotic twitch. Then he comes again from his distant crags. Once again the stake has failed to bring him peace, though we saw with our own eyes the blood gushing from his chest, while Dr. Van Helsing or Jonathan Harker or any of their many avatars wielded the heavy hammer that drove the fire-hardened wood into his heart. We saw him die, we willed his death, but not enough, as the filmmakers who know without knowing the meaning of our hunger recognize. So they bring him back ingenuously or ridiculously revived again and again so that we can have our Dracula. Strong, ironic, intelligent, cultivated, cosmopolitan, a dead man who is not dead. A living man who is not alive, a bat more dangerous than any bat that flew. A mist charged with the white energy of boiling water, a swirling cloud of moonbeams darkening into his stern from beside a lovely woman's bed. He is a storm, he is two glowing red eyes, and always and forever. He is a strange erotic presence. In the 75 years since Stoker invented him, the elegant count on whom the decent, bewildered Jonathan Harker intruded has made his way much farther than the London to which he went in search of juicier, more frequent prey. Dracula has expanded outward, far past anything Stoker imagined for him, and has become something like an avatar of our age, filling our minds when we see him with the sense of an awesome darkness, whose meaning the sleek, reasonable world in which we live, denies. Adolescents recognize him at once, his bad breath, his red lips. If he kissed you once, will he kiss you again? They lie in the torpor of their pupa stage, waiting for something better to them, dreaming about transformations, pimpled, gawky, swollen with blood and other juices they do not quite understand. They know about being loathed and loathing. Like Dracula, they avoid mirrors. Like him, they know about drinking blood. Haven't they been told what sacrifices have been made in their behalf? Who ruined their mother's figure? Whose education has cost their father his most brilliant hopes? In revenge, when I ask a classroom of college freshmen who, in their experience, most nearly resembles a vampire, they unhesitatingly set down their answers. My father, my mother. Blood surges in and soils the young. Hearing the word suck, they look about warily in the grip of strange confusions. They know what all those films are about: ego, power, parasitism, loneliness, immortality, youth, 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 and 38 kinds of sex. The living dead. Finally, it comes down to this. When Dracula's lips approach the delicate throat of the beautiful girl on the screen, they know better than Stoker's Victorian readers, perhaps better than Stoker, why. And there's the vampire Gimlet by Smirnoff. Every mouth in the dark cavern Plato did not imagine for his allegory also opens when the girl gets a look of ineffable dreaminess in her face as she feels the soft, shivering touch of the lips on the supersensitive skin of the throat, and the hard dents of two sharp teeth just touching and pausing there, and why Jonathan Harker closed his eyes in a languorous ecstasy and waited with beating heart. Altamont, Mick Jagger, red lipped and twitching, the young, smirking, brilliant vampire of the airwaves, flinging incoherent, brightly colored fantasies to his beseeching fans. He's arriving at Altamont, that great free festival of love, jiggling, Mick Jagger jiggling, hurrying to get right in there, into the holes open in the upturned faces, thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of faces, in the sprawling meadows waiting for the one, the only, the true performance, the one that achieves madness, waiting for the music to reassure them. Altamont, a funky electronic, non-medieval extravaganza with expensive textures, sophisticated raunchiness, sensuality at once sly and berserk, the pale, dry figure with the carmine lips, faking a trembling ecstasy to a music that is hard, compelled, hysteric, but also brilliant to a point of genius, a musical understanding of the ugly, the drug driven, the squalid, scrabbling at the transcendental, a music whose energy is so vast that one almost does not notice that when it stops, there is no peace. He mounts the bandstand as the sun goes down. The 300,000 had been there for hours, entertained by half a dozen other rock groups, but now Belial himself is here, and the energy of expectation sweeps across the meadow like wind through a field of grain. The demonic clown reaches for the green velvet, or is it rubber? Rubber. Clad microphone, Jagger, full lipped, sharp faced as a starved rat, jiggles his enormously intelligent blue eyes, sweep the crowd, calculating what there is to work with. The pulsations of the music seem to be hurrying the blood. Jagger vibrates. The evening breeze and an impatient gesture of his hand send his scarf and cloak out behind him in a nervous flutter. The microphone is the hypnotic center of the encounter that is about to take place. It is green and rigid with a bulbous tip, and Jagger crowds the tip, opening his mouth wide, gaping over it, gaping like an insatiable fish as he dares the crowd to guess what he's doing. His lower jaw trembles. Belial, Asmodeus, Baal, whoever Jagger is, taunts the 300,000. He crouches, croons, shouts, leaps, carrying the microphone with him. His hair falls over one eye with a practiced gesture of impatience. He flings it away. His mouth gapes and gapes, and the music tears at the dusk. The faces around the stage are baked in a rich red light. Hieronymus Bosch, in the service of the festival's promoters, has arranged them. There are the Hell's Angels, trivial demons earning their beer as they guard the floodlights, or hustle impassioned maenads from the stage, and the stone freaks swaying by now to a music that they can no longer hear. The many-headed beast opens its mouth. Jagger seems ready to swallow the microphone in his. A spotlight catches his eyes as they shine like stars on a frosty night. A fat girl can no longer stand it. Her clothes are off. too naked to be ashamed, responding to lust or even an even more private frenzy. She sways toward the stage, so much white flesh offering itself to an indifferent god who leaps in epileptic joy, while his face takes on the look of a prim Bryn Mawr virgin in the arms of a coal black lover. I need a good woman, he groans, to keep me satisfied, and the wallowing white flesh offers herself in the interests of music, love, the movie industry, or an overwhelming self pity. But the offer is spurned. Belial's mouth is busy, and she is led away weeping, all that soft generosity wasted. Meanwhile, somewhere in that field of desire and Coca Colas, hashish, LSD, and old fashioned ordinary picnic pleasure, a child is born, and then the trouble that has been slowly building up around the stage quickens its pace. The angels, using pool cues, break up or intensify a fight. Grace Slick, whose homely beauty in the place breathes a loveliness bizarrely out of keeping with the aura surrounding Jagger, repeats softly, "Easy, easy." If he heard it, her voice could pacify the Nemean lion. But despite the loudspeakers, which anyhow kept breaking down, her gentleness seems not to reach where it is needed. You got to keep your bodies off each other, she says, unless you intend love. It does no good. Something is doomed to happen down there. The greedy cameras want it. It may be that the crowd, touched by the various frenzies that have come its way that day, also wants it. But suddenly there is a tall, green-suited young black man in a splatter of confusing movement to the left of the stage. Someone is holding or not holding him. Someone is crying out. Someone has a knife. Someone has a gun. Someone is pushing. Someone is pushing, shoving, screaming. The man in the green suit is dead. Mick Jagger is at his lascivious green microphone, and Altamont, the free festival of joy, goes on from one of the towers built to hold the spotlights. A single watcher who has escaped the attention of the angels of hell looks down. Behind him in the sable night, the stars shine and shine. In her book, The Sensuous Woman, Jay tells us. Now, this book is about Dracula. Learn to use your pelvis and behind as if they were loaded with ball bearings. First try circles clockwise and counterclockwise, then do a figure eight and a square. If you have been doing sensuality exercise number 7, you'll be able to carry off a dozen different gripping and thrusting actions with practically no effort. Miss J, whose formulae betraying the terrifying innocence of what else besides sensation eroticism requires, advises her readers that if they have difficulty achieving orgasms, they ought to acquire an electric vibrator with which to masturbate. I can see why people give this bad reviews since it's not really about vampires. The vibrator will probably work wonders for you. There are many different kinds of vibrators on the market. In checking with a number of women, I found that the most popular style for masturbatory activity was a battery operated, no worrying about becoming entangled in electric cords. Vibrator shaped rather like a penis. It is inexpensive and on display in most drugstores. It is an effective clitoral stimulator and can also be inserted into the vagina. Having acquired the vibrator, the reader is urged to let it take the place of the wished-for lover. Feed him, caress your breast. What the fuck is this? Running his hands down and over your abdomen, stroking the inside of your thighs, reaching higher now and gently massaging your clitoris. Let the vibrator be his hands and penis. Take your time. Be swallowed up in the continuous rhythmic stimulation of the vibrator as it moves up and down and around your clitoris and vagina. It is a fascinating picture in which the woman willing for her demon lover is finally answered. Masturbation is lonely enough, but there is at least the contact with human flesh, even if it's one's own. But Jay has found a way of depriving sensation of any relationship to experience, and the orgasm which it produces takes place in the most desperate desert places of the desiring self. Hello, Robs. The vibrator so cherished by Jay is the ideal instrument for Dracula's wives, is it? To while away the long days and victimless nights that they must spend in their master's presence, because, as they remind him, you yourself never loved, you never love. More seriously, Jay's suggestion, indeed, her entire book is further and unnecessary evidence that a 200-year-old calamity is still upon us. Energy without grace, power without responsibility. It is not a new anxiety. Henry Adams, talking about it in 1905, writes, this is the prequel of 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, it might be. I mean, this is fucking blasphemous to put all this garbage in a Dracula book. Nothing so revolutionary had happened since the year 300. Thought had more than once been upset, but never caught and whirled about in the vortex of infinite forces. Power leaped from every atom, and enough of it to supply the stellar universe showed itself running to waste at every pore of matter. Man could no longer hold it off. Forces grasped his wrists and flung him about as though he had hold of a live wire, or found himself in the neighborhood of an official without calculating the chances of a bomb. So long as the rates of progress held good, these bombs would double in force and number every 10 years. An immense volume of force had detached itself from the unknown universe of energy, while still vaster reservoirs, supposed to be infinite, steadily revealed themselves. Since his time, there has been no end to worry that the scientific mind and the machine it produces threatens our humanity, and most particularly the idea of the self. William James, again in 1905, writes, science, on the other hand, has ended by utterly repudiating the personal point of view. She catalogues her elements and records her laws indifferent as to what purpose may be shown forth by them, and constructs her theories quite careless of their bearing on human anxieties and fates. Individuality is founded in feeling, and the recesses of feeling, the darker, blinder strata of character, are the only places in the world in which we catch real fact in the making, and directly perceive how events happen and how work is actually done. In 1956, the anxiety is still with us. Science is expanding while the self diminishes, and Eric Kahler, in his study of the contemporary wasteland as it then appeared to him, discerned the same dangers. We surveyed the various forms of collectivization, scientification, specialization, functionalization, standardization, anonymization, commercialization, all of them originally springing from rationalization and technologization, and all of them splitting the individual, dividing him into a collective functional part and an individual human part. The collective part keeps extending while the individual part increasingly shrinks. By 1968, in the midst of an apparent resurgence of individualism that would get itself called the hippie revolution, the age of Aquarius, the counterculture, or the greening of America, Theodore Rozak complains that objectivity as a state of being fills the very air we breathe in a scientific culture. It grips us subliminally in all we say, feel, and do. The mentality of the idea scientist becomes the very soul of the society. We seek to adapt our lives to the dictates of the mentality, of that mentality, or at the very least, we respond to it acquiescently in the myriad images and pronouncements in which it manifests itself about us during every waking hour. What troubled John Bunyan in the 17th century was not whether he existed, but rather what was to become of his eternal soul, because he had been so bad. My original and inward pollution, that was my plague and my affliction. By reason of that, I was more loathsome in my own eyes than was a toad. And I thought I was so in God's eyes too. Sin and corruption, I said, would as naturally bubble out of my heart as water would bubble out of a fountain. I thought none but the devil himself could equal with me for inward wickedness and pollution of mind. Sure, thought I am forsaken of God. Betty Madden, on the other hand, has never been particularly bad, but she does not know who she is. Or so she tells the 14 people with whom she is spending an encounter weekend at the home of Joel Dodson, PhD, in the hills above Burlingame, California. Betty is a hunchback, 34 years old, with graying hair, clear blue eyes, and a swift, crooked smile that has very little joy in it. Dodson, a friendly, balding giant, has asked his client to stand in the middle of a circle and one by one say the sentence that most describes them. Betty is first, and she has said, I don't know who I am. There is a three-quarter moon in the sky. Dodson's eucalyptus trees are bowed over the fence around his swimming pool, giving off a uniquely California odor of rot and sexuality. Betty, at the center of 13 pairs of eyes, feels her heart pounding. Until now, she has felt pretty good. Dinner by candlelight on the patio. Hawaiian baked chicken, rice with almonds in it, Brussels sprouts, cool white wine, or tall glasses of passion fruit juice to drink. With the coffee, several puffs on a marijuana cigarette have relaxed her, as well as being with all these friendly strangers. She feels happier already than she has been in many years, and does not really believe the single line she has spoken in her part of tonight's drama. It was a gesture of shyness, almost flirtatious, and she expects to be rescued by her dinner table companions, but from the silence around her, she is suddenly unsure. There is no rush of reassurance, none of the friendly lies she counts on for her self esteem. Silence. Because Dr. Dodson has been at great pains to tell the group that their therapy in this 48-hour marathon depends on the tenacity with which they cling to the truth. He has shared with them an aphorism recently come to his notice. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Betty Madden is about to find how it can also invoke the devil. The breeze ripples the surface of the pool, breaking the reflected moonlight into a shower of gold, like that which enters the thighs of Gustav Klimt's painting of Danae. Betty, who has not seen the picture, is however getting some of its sinister. The Sleep of Reason 2. There it is. I assume those are tombs of soldiers, but I could be wrong. Feeling, gold and green and silence coalescing to a not yet whispered threat. She puts her finger to her white cotton blouse with its 8 mother of pearl buttons, which now she knows was the wrong thing to wear. In her working life, Betty Madden is a G3 clerk typist for the Veterans Administration at 440 Market Street. She is quiet and dependable, though she sometimes wonders if something is wrong with her because she does not really mind typing. Her office personality is pert and sharp, her wit being just a bit quicker than her friends can always follow, but she has friends at the office, that is, and eats lunch regularly with them in the cafeteria. Her apartment in the Mission District, in a neighborhood she is at pains to describe as very respectable Spanish, is well furnished and looked after with care. She enjoys housekeeping. She likes to cook and to sew pretty things for her flat. In the evenings, of course, she is lonely, which is why she signed up for the encounter weekend. She did not think she was responding to a crisis in her head and would have been outraged had anyone suggested she was in any way neurotic. She had vaguely heard about such groups and thought it might be fun to go to one. Her mother was always saying that it was good for her to meet new people. There is the scraping of a garden chair on the poolside concrete. Pete, a swarthy, heavy-set 40-ish man, leans forward and says, Cut the crap. You fucking well know who you are. Betty, startled by the venom in his voice, turns toward him, the tears not quite yet gathering in her eyes. But, she says, I just thought, we know damn well what you thought, comes the clear, contralto voice of a slender, brown-haired woman of 30. This is Lois, who teaches 12-year-old girls at San Francisco's Burke School. You thought, poor little me, here I am, Miss No Name of 1971, weeping and crying, and all of us nice, nice people will pat you on the head and say, There, there, we love you. Isn't that what you thought? Again, Betty turns. Awareness, she is thinking, aware, and sees her own silhouette hunched and long as if draining toward the pool. The moonlight, too, is her enemy. I was only trying, she says, to do what Dr. Dodson said we should. The darkness is full of voices. Great, another one says. Blame it on Dr. Dodson. What else are you going to make him responsible for? The 34 years of your life? This is Squash Robinson, who sat next to her at the dinner table, and to whom she confided her age. Squash drives a delivery truck for the Emporium, but is a writer on the side. He is 23. At dinner, Betty had found him particularly sweet and attentive. She had liked him and had been especially pleased to learn that, like herself, he came from Pittsburgh, California. Now she looks toward him and wants to ask, why are you being so mean to me? But she knows it's because of the hump. The first of the tears that have been gathering in her eyes rolls slowly down one cheek. Dr. Dodson clears his throat. He has made of gentleness a specially refined weapon. Gently, he says, crying, Betty, is evasive, you know, nearly as evasive as telling a lie. Betty snuffles and dabs at her nose with a tiny handkerchief. Pete's gravelly voice cuts through the night. Why don't you tell us who you are, Betty? Because you do know. It is a command so sinister that it sounds like a voice she heard echoing down long, long corridors in a movie she once saw about the Inquisition. The voice tears at her, and she thinks she is in the movie while high, medieval walls spin around her. Afraid of getting dizzy, she cries out, I'm a freak, that's what I am. Squash, Robinson, her dinner table friend, says. What's a freak? Me, Betty says angrily. Me, I'm a freak. Do you really believe that? The voice is soft and low. Betty searches the circle of faces and finds Flossie Cohen, the fat architect from Berkeley. Flossie carries a lot of weight around, but she has a light, sensuous step, and her body hints of happy pleasures. A huge woman, Betty thought when she met her, but with a pretty face. Now Flossie gets up and moves her chair closer to Betty, who sees in the movement something reassuring. Flossie must be on her side, Betty thinks, only to be jarred by Flossie's next question. Betty, what do you see in the mirror when you look? Me, Betty replies, only me. Liar, says Flossie from out of the shadows. Other voices take up the word liar, liar. Betty hears the accusation as long ago she heard and called it at school. Liar, liar, your nose is as long as the telephone wire. Contritely, she asks, what do I see? Dark, heavy. Pete does not spare her. Your hump, he says. Your goddamned hump. No, yes, no, Betty insists. Liar, liar, liar. Unaccountably, Betty thinks of Hawaiian baked chicken, rice with almonds in it, and tall, cool glasses of passion fruit juice. From his place in the shadows, Dr. Dodson interposes. Betty, think now. You are standing before your mirror. What do you see? Or what do you avoid seeing? Well, Betty, what? You do have that hump, don't you? Well, do you see it in your mirror? Once, years ago, a filling from one of her teeth came loose, and Betty felt it gravely sharpen its gravely sharpness on her tongue. Before she knew what she was doing, she had swallowed it. It seemed a good way to deal with trouble, but here her mouth is dry and there's nothing as compact as a filling to swallow. Betty, Dr. Dodson is saying patiently, do you see your hump? It's there. Do you think I don't know it's there? Betty, a question is not the same thing as an answer. Now try to answer our question. Betty stands, hunched and sullen. Dr. Dodson's voice drops to an even gentler register, which nevertheless gives to it a tone of command. Show us, Betty, show us what you really see. She hears, and to her surprise, finds her fingers going to the buttons of her blouse. She is 4 feet 6 inches tall and has lived with the curvature in her spine since birth. Dr. Dodson repeats, show us your hump, Betty. It is only that, and nothing more. You know it's there. We know it too. After a while, Betty waits beside the little pile of her clothing, like a crushed statue, her hands folded over her breasts. The bright lights at the bottom of the swimming pool swim waveringly up to meet the moonbeams at the surface. Those lights are metallic, hard, unlike the soft, blurred darkness overhead. Show us! Betty is no longer sure whether it is Dodson talking or someone else. If she stands still and doesn't say a word, maybe all this will pass. Again, she hears the scraping of a chair, and Flossie Cohen, enormous Flossie Cohen, stands before her. I am a naked monster statue in a fountain with my arms folded. and my legs pressed close together. I am cold and humped. I am a naked monster statue in a fountain. I am cold and humped. Out of the shadows, the others come for the encounter. Since Betty no longer sees them, they are all a white blur moved by the wind. One by one, they come toward her. One by one, they put their arms around her naked body, but she does not feel them hugging her. Nor does she feel their hands exploring, patting, reassuring her hump, reassuring her. 14 strangers on a moonlit hillside are giving her an intimate message, which, in the dark place where she is hiding, Betty does not get. Betty, 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 you are like us, hump and all. We are all cripples. We are all straight. We love you, Betty. We love you. Can't you tell? Mary does not live in this landscape. The realm of darkness, so Mani teaches, is cut up by deep gulfs, abysses, pits, quagmires, dikes, fens, and pools into expanses of land divided and split up by long stretchers filled with thick forests interspersed with vents, which from region to region and from dike to dike send up a smoky exhalation. While far off, from region to region and from dike to dike, arise columns of fire and smoky cloud. One part of it lies higher, the other lower. The smoke that goes up from it is the poison of death. It rises from a pit whose bottom seethes with turbid mud covered over with a layer of dust. The receptacle of the elements of fire, of the heavy and dismal elements of wind, of the elements of turbid water. London is Mary's realm of darkness. London, where I have gone to pursue Dracula. Mary is interesting for several reasons. She is beautiful, she is young, she is talented. Moreover, she has a tenacious memory for the absolute horror of her own dreams. She says, in my dream, you have to see me as a machine. I'm very bright, very shiny. I am not a robot, but I am a machine. Instead of arms and legs, I have rods and levers. In this dream, I am sort of parked next to another machine that seems to be a male machine. Of course, I am female. Anyhow, we are parked side by side and we're humming because our motors are turned on. And as we hum, my energy understands his energy. There is a contact point, you could say. Not that we touch each other, but the air above us is carrying heavy charges of our electricity. And it's as if we were both hoping that the charges will be so heavy there will be a flashpoint between us, with fire and the smell of ozone like you get in a dodgem. There we are, them humming, brooding, thinking, loving, if you can call it that, and the energy change gets stronger and stronger, but there are other machines all around embarrassing us, so we roll out of there into a huge warehouse with a black floor and a black walls in which we are the only two things. It's an enormous space with no light. We're rolling smoothly along, building up our charges of energy again. Then we wheel around each other in a dance. I can hear the soft purring of my motor and feel the rolling of my wheels. We stop and we face each other. I know we are facing each other because we have, oh man, brass nameplates that designate which part of the machine is the front, and the nameplates are opposite each other. I wait, thinking it's going to happen. The spark, this divine spark. We're going to do it, really, but then I seem to see inside the other machine, and it can see inside me. And I hear a sentence I heard once about the Romans. They made a desert, and they called it peace, and that sentence makes even clearer the inside of the other machine, just as it is seen inside me more clearly. And what we both see is our mutual innards whirling and whirling, using up electromagnetic energy. And I feel building not the spark that brought us there, but a low, blank thought that goes, if we touch, we will run out of energy. Then I awoke. Mary says it was that dream that decided her to put this ad in a London paper. Wanted man 30 to 50, good genetic strain to father my child. No contracts. Mutual shared responsibility. Marriage not the object of this ad. Right box 103133, giving details. The details come soon enough. Among her other qualities, one has always to deal with Mary's. willingness to share not only the details but the very acts of her despair. And so she invites me to see the letters that come in answer to her ad. They are a sorry bunch for the most part. Inevitably, there are the crude "I am a great French lover" letters, some of them printed in the extravagant bold style of men for whom anonymity is the last best blessing. There are also letters of a diffidence so modest that I want to weep at their self effacement. Dear madam, I am 38 years old. I regret to say I am not handsome, but I am kind. On receipt of your reply containing address, I shall present myself forthwith. I enclose a photograph, which I hope you will not find unpleasant. You will not find unpleasant. Most sincerely, and looking forward to your acquaintance, Joshua H. Haskell. Haskell is not the one she chooses, but rather a more skillful vampire who writes a smooth, New Yorkerish letter hinting of literate sorrows and wide travel. The rhetoric is deft. The persona that emerges from his lines is that of a practiced liar who is willing to play the passionate charade that Mary's advertisement implies. Karma upon karma, he writes, and now you, I have toyed with lives my own, sailed a bit, soldiered seriously, learning that cowardice attracts me, but was saved at the final moment by a touch of shame. Then 4 years making films, 2 pretending to teach, 1 year adrift, beachcomber, spiritual bum. Then drugs, not to the point of trouble, enough to stay away. As for my genetic credentials, Anglo Indian, the Anglo officers and gentlemen, the India high caste professionals. I imagine you, I imagine our child, Wright, Alan Mukherjee. When he arrives, I stay just long enough to shake his dry hand and to glimpse the fear in his huge brown eyes. A diminutive Anglo Indian in a rusty gray double breasted suit. Mary, who dreams that she may be a machine whose energy supply is running down, throws me a defiant look. I know what it means. It is paragraph 8 in the series of reasons she has given me for what she is doing. Don't, for God's sakes, tell me I'm unreasonable. I know that, but take a look at my life. What the hell has reason got me besides one crummy job and 1,000 nights of loneliness? It's time to give blind fate a chance. It has more options. Leaving Mary, I am out in a bright London street. Later in the afternoon, in a Soho restaurant that prides itself on its continental aplomb, I eat a dish of sun warmed raspberries covered with the thickest cream in England. Dracula has not yet been seen on the bloody fields of Vietnam, but it is only a question of time. Mark Gans is so convinced that he is there that he has taken extraordinary means to outwit him. Mark is 24, long haired, bushy bearded, and a first rate medical student at the University of California Medical School in San Francisco. He is a likable but tense young man who is unsure what all the tension is about, but has not concluded that he ought to worry about it. It's the way I am, he says, and Allison, the tall, blonde young woman who shares this small flat on Lower Parnassus Avenue, is not worried either. She thinks the world they live in is tense and that one has to learn to cope with it. That means some low key drug use, a little bit of grass, an occasional mescaline trip. Nothing heavy, as she puts it, just some gentle buffers between themselves and the raw state of things. Mark and Allison lead a mixed life. On the one hand, they are attuned to the revolution that Charles Reich has prophesied with so much unction. There is a revolution coming. It will not be like revolutions of the past. It will originate with the individual and with culture, and it will change the political structure only as its final act. It will not require violence to succeed, and it cannot be successfully resisted by violence. It is now spreading with amazing rapidity, and already our laws, institutions, and social structure are changing in consequence. It promises a higher reason, a more human community, and a new and liberated individual. Its ultimate creation will be a new and enduring wholeness and beauty. A renewed relationship of man to himself, to other men, to society, to nature, and to the land. This is the revolution of the new generation. Their protest and rebellion, their protest and rebellion, their culture, clothes, music, drugs, ways of thought, and liberated lifestyle are not a passing fad or a form of dissent and refusal, nor are they in any way, in any sense, irrational. The whole emerging pattern from ideas to campus demonstrations to beads and bell bottoms to the Woodstock Festival makes sense and is part of a consistent philosophy. It is both necessary and inevitable, and in time it will include not only youth but all people in America. On the other hand, living in San Francisco, they know a little more soberly what else that revolution has already brought in its train. Pretty little 16-year-old middle class chick comes to the hate to see what it's all about and gets picked up by a 17-year-old street dealer who spends all day shooting her full of speed again and again, then feeds her 3,000 mics and raffles off her temporarily unemployed body for the biggest hate street gangbang since the night before last. And this is all mixed up with Mark's reluctant but enormously compelled interest in medicine and in the visionary stained glass windows Allison makes. Mark says angrily because he is being made to say it. Sure, yes, of course I want to be a good doctor, but I don't want to be one in Vietnam. For Mark and many like him, Vietnam is the American crime of this age, and because he is as pragmatic as he is passionate and intense, he has seen to it that he will not be a doctor there. 3 months ago, he received the notice ordering him to report for the physical examination that precedes induction into the Army. Mark, like Felix Krull, was ready for his examiners approximately 3 hours before the time he was expected to be at the draft board's offices. Mark was lying on a table in an empty medical office, squeezing his right hand occasionally, a gesture that helped to pump the blood from a vein through a tube into the receiving bottle a classmate had set up. Within 20 minutes, the pint bottle was full, the needle was removed from his vein, and a swab of cotton placed over the puncture. Mark sat up and waited to be sure he was having no side effects from the transfusion. Then, as his fascinated friend watched, Mark uncapped the bottle and drank the blood that not long ago had been flowing in his veins. It was not easy, but Mark is serious about Vietnam. Early in his physical examination, the draft board's medical technicians gave Mark a routine blood test and found a normal hemoglobin count. 40 minutes later, they gave him a cardboard container and asked still routinely for a feces sample. What they got was rich with fresh blood. Alarmed, the technicians reported what they saw, and Mark was given a second blood test. By now, his system responding to the morning's blood loss, the hemoglobin count was sharply down. The busy board doctors had no complicated diagnosis to make. Courteously, sympathetically, they sent Mark home. A young man with a bleeding ulcer cannot and should not serve in the American army. He was urged to get medical help as soon as possible. Dracula, if he was on the fields of Vietnam, would have to do without the help of Mark Gans. And I gotta say that if this book continues in this way, I will not be reading anymore. That was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, that's all for now, bros. Guten Abend.